Hello everyone, I hope you enjoy the video. Today, I will continue telling you the love story of Diep and CEO James. That morning, James woke before the sun had fully risen, with a thin mist blanketing the garden. The air was chilly, and his breath formed faint clouds before him. Throwing on a light shirt, he stepped outside, glancing toward the bedroom door where Diep still lay quietly. A clear thought rose in his heart. Today, she needed absolute rest, and he would take care of everything for her. He began in the corner of the garden by the fence, where knee-high weeds tangled with climbing vines. James bent down, his hands soon covered in damp soil, patiently pulling them out one by one. The earthy scent of freshly turned ground mixed with the green aroma of crushed leaves. Fingers once accustomed only to turning papers and tapping keys were now coated with mud, but he didn't mind. He loosened the topsoil, sliced through stubborn roots with a knife, and left neat, empty rows that looked as if they'd been tended by a professional gardener. When the yard was clear, he moved to the chicken coop. From the kitchen corner, he took down a ripe bunch of bananas, sliced them into small pieces just right for the chickens, the sound of the knife tapping on the board blending with the sweet fragrance of the fruit. Mixing the bananas with bran, he carried the bowl outside. The chickens and a few ducks, hearing him, rushed over, clucking and quacking loudly in one lively corner of the garden. James stood watching them eat, a faint smile on his lips, as if the sight itself softened something in his heart. Once done outside, he returned indoors. In the laundry area, Diep's dirty clothes were still piled high. James gathered them into a large basin, filled it with clear well water, and added scoops of detergent. The soft rustle of scrubbing, wringing, and rinsing mixed with the light fragrance of soap drifting out the doorway. He shook out each shirt, each towel, wrung them dry, then hung them neatly on a bamboo pole under the morning sun. To help them dry faster, he adjusted the pole so the breeze could pass through easily. From time to time, he paused to check on her. Diep still lay there, her lashes trembling faintly but eyes not yet open, her pale skin making his heart ache. James sat by the bed, holding her small hand, whispering as if speaking into her dreams. "Just sleep, don't worry about anything. I'll take care of it all. I only need you to get better." He told her about the little things he had done, how the chickens ate heartily, how the garden now revealed fresh rows of soil, how the golden morning sunlight would be enough to dry the laundry in just a few hours. He didn't know if she could hear him, but he kept talking, afraid that silence might widen the distance between them. Then James returned to his chores. He swept the dry leaves from the porch, wiped the bamboo chairs until they were free of dust, and straightened the potted plants that last night's wind had shifted. He pulled stray weeds from the vegetable beds, then gave them a cool drink of water. Every movement was unhurried, deliberate, as though he was pouring his care into every corner of the home. To James, that morning was not just about tidying or gardening, but about rebuilding a sense of peace, so that when Diep awoke, she would find everything around her clean, orderly, and warm, just as he wished, that she would never feel alone in these difficult days. At last, James's anxious waiting and countless sleepless nights were rewarded. In the soft light of the late afternoon, Diep's long lashes fluttered faintly, as if in response to a dream that had just passed. She slowly opened her eyes. At first, everything was blurred, just hazy patches of color, but then the shapes around her began to sharpen. The first thing she saw was James, sitting right at the edge of the bed, his body slightly leaning toward her, hands clasped tightly together as though to contain his nervous anticipation. His face looked worn, the dark circles under his eyes revealing nights spent without rest, yet his gaze remained as gentle and patient as if he had never let go of hope. Noticing she was awake, James leaned down, a faint smile lifting his lips. "You're awake. Don't worry, I'm here." His voice was warm, like a cup of tea on a winter's day, carrying with it a sense of safety Diep hadn't felt in a long time. He slipped an arm around her, helping her sit up slowly, careful as though any sudden movement might tire her further. A soft pillow was placed behind her back, and then he reached for the bowl of steaming porridge he had set on the table. The gentle aroma of rice cooked with minced meat, laced with a hint of scallion, filled the room. James had prepared it early, as if anticipating this very moment, so that when she opened her eyes, a warm meal would be ready. He scooped up a small spoonful, blew on it to cool the steam, and brought it to her lips. Diep was still weak, her face pale and her lips dry. James didn't let her hold the spoon, patiently feeding her each bite, his eyes following every swallow, as though afraid she might cough or feel unwell. Between spoonfuls, he spoke softly. "Eat slowly, no rush. I'm here." After a few bites, Diep looked at him, her eyes glistening. "I don't want to be this weak, but there are times I feel like I just can't get past this sadness." James paused, set the spoon down, and took her cold hand in his warm, broad one, enveloping it completely. "I know, but you're not alone. We'll leave all the bad things in the past and start a better future together. I promise you." That promise was like an invisible thread pulling her back. She didn't answer right away, just gave a small nod, but in her eyes there was a spark of resolve, small, yet real. When she finished eating, James stood and picked up his phone, calling his mother. His voice carried barely restrained joy. "Mom, Diep's awake." On the other end, his mother's voice rang with delight. "That's wonderful. When can you bring her over to my place, so she can get some fresh air and stop worrying so much?" James passed on his mother's words, and Diep smiled faintly, a smile still tinged with fragility, yet filled with gratitude. A strange, comforting warmth welled up in her chest. Over these past days, James hadn't just cared for her health, he had quietly carried her spirit as well. They sat together for a while longer, exchanging gentle words of comfort and encouragement. Neither of them spoke much of the past, instead, they talked about what tomorrow might bring, and how she could get better faster. When James saw a hint of color returning to her cheeks, he stood. "I need to step out to take care of something, but I'll be right back. Rest now." Before leaving, he pulled the blanket up over her, his hand brushing lightly through her hair, an unconscious gesture, yet filled with tenderness. In the late afternoon, James returned and took Diep home. Standing on the doorstep, Diep suddenly wrapped her arms tightly around him. It was a long, silent embrace, yet heavy with meaning, a wordless thank you, an unspoken admission that she had let him into her heart. James held her a little tighter, his eyes gently closing, as if to etch this moment deeply into his memory. After James left, the house sank back into a long stretch of quiet. Only the soft whisper of wind slipped through the window frame, stirring the thin curtain. Diep sat still on the edge of the bed, her gaze drifting to the deep green of the garden outside. In her chest, a wave of guilt welled up. She knew she had made James and his mother worry far too much, attending to her every need, from her health to her state of mind. Images of James staying up through the night, his mother hurrying over with medicine and warm meals, replayed in her head like a slow-motion film. She clasped her hands together, feeling the coolness of her own skin. In that moment, Diep silently vowed to get well quickly, so she would no longer weigh on their hearts like this. Rising, she stepped into the bathroom. The sound of rushing water from the shower filled the small space, mingling with the warmth that spread through the air. The stream ran down her back, washing away the heaviness and fatigue from each muscle. The gentle scent of soap lingered with every breath, calming her mind. With every drop that slid away, another layer of worry and tension seemed to be rinsed off, leaving behind a sense of lightness and clarity. Meanwhile, not far away, James was at the plot of land he had been quietly preparing. He walked along a narrow path, occasionally stopping to study the ground, measuring its width and length. His first plan was to open a new pathway, paved with solid stones so Diep could walk there safely, whether in the rain or under the blazing sun. On both sides of the path, he envisioned neat rows of trees, giving shade in summer and shielding against the cold winds of winter. In his mind, the image of Diep appeared vividly, walking leisurely, a basket of eggs or fresh fruit in her arms, her expression light and at peace. But that was only the beginning. James had been nurturing a bigger dream, to build a house right here. Not just any house, but their home of love, where the two of them would wake up together each morning, cook meals side by side, plant trees, raise chickens, and enjoy tranquil afternoons. He imagined a living room facing the garden, flooded with sunlight, a small balcony draped in flowers for watching the sunset, a warm, bright kitchen with a window looking out over the trees, and a spacious bedroom that welcomed the soft light of dawn. When he had finished noting down all his ideas, James returned to pick up Diep. Seeing her dressed neatly, her skin glowing with a fresh warmth after her shower, he smiled gently, his eyes softer than ever. They stepped outside and began walking together, their voices and laughter weaving through the air, gently sweeping away the heavy atmosphere of the past days. James led Diep to an open patch of land between the trees. The evening breeze carried the scent of fresh grass, mingled with the earthy fragrance left by an earlier rain. Pointing around, he spoke with enthusiasm, telling her about each corner of their future home, where the outdoor dining table would go, the spot for a swing, and the backyard space for a few playful dogs. Diep listened, her eyes glistening with emotion. She thanked him, not only for the house he planned, but for the deep care and love he had always shown her. In that moment, a warm happiness spread through her, accompanied by a strong belief that their future would indeed be bright. They continued strolling around the land, their steps side by side on the grassy path. Now and then, they paused to discuss small details, what flowers to plant at the gate, where to place a bench, how many chickens to raise. Their laughter mingled with the rustle of wind through the leaves, as if erasing every trace of the storms they had weathered. James made a silent promise to himself, from this day on, he would give Diep the very best. Not just a roof over her head, but a new chapter, fuller, gentler, and more peaceful. As the sun began to sink in the west, its golden light stretching across the distant fields, they walked hand in hand back along the village road. The warmth from their intertwined fingers flowed between them, no words needed, yet it was a silent vow that they would face every season of sun and storm together. While James and Diep were still on their way, James's mother, upon hearing that her son was bringing Diep to visit, bustled about in preparation. She opened the cupboard, chose the freshest, most beautiful fruits from the basket, set them on the table, and carefully peeled each one. The knife glided over the thin skins, revealing juicy, sweet-scented flesh beneath. She didn't just peel them clean, she sliced them into bite-sized pieces, arranging them neatly on a white porcelain plate and adding a few sprigs of green mint for a fresh touch. Every movement carried thoughtfulness and affection, as if she were preparing for a cherished family member. In her heart, there was a mix of excitement and anticipation, picturing the moment her son and Diep stepped through the door, their cheerful greetings filling the warm home. When they arrived, the soft afternoon light streamed into the living room, tinting the thin curtains with gold. She had been waiting for some time, but at the sound of footsteps on the porch, she immediately stood. A gentle smile spread across her face as she walked quickly to welcome Diep, opening her arms as though greeting a true member of the family. Before either of them could sit down, she was already kindly asking whether Diep had fully recovered, how she had been eating and sleeping in recent days, and whether she still felt weak. Her warm, caring tone made Diep feel as though she were being sheltered. James stood quietly to the side, watching. His eyes held a joy that was hard to put into words as he saw his mother and Diep conversing warmly, naturally, as though they had known each other for years. The atmosphere in the room grew unusually cozy, as if the worries and tension of the past days had melted away. In the midst of their conversation, James's mother gently brought up the day Diep fainted. She didn't press her with questions. Instead, she leaned forward slightly, her voice carrying the worry of a mother. "What happened that day? Were you overworking yourself?" Then she earnestly advised Diep that if she ever felt unwell, she should rest and not push herself, because doing so would not only harm her health but also cause those who cared about her to worry even more. Diep listened quietly, feeling the sincerity in every word. She gave a small smile and promised that it wouldn't happen again, that she would take better care of herself so neither James nor his mother would have to worry. That promise softened the woman's gaze, deepening her kind smile. From then on, their conversation turned to lighter topics. They talked about the delicate sweetness of the fruit, the flower beds blooming in the garden, and a few childhood stories of James that his mother shared with delight, making both women laugh. Their voices and laughter mingled with the faint fragrance of tea drifting through the air, creating the feeling of a warm family gathering. For Diep, that moment felt like a quiet affirmation that she was gradually becoming a part of this home, not just a place to return to, but a place where hearts had truly made room for her. While James and Diep were still on their way, James's mother, upon hearing that her son was bringing Diep to visit, bustled about in preparation. She opened the cupboard, chose the freshest, most beautiful fruits from the basket, set them on the table, and carefully peeled each one. The knife glided over the thin skins, revealing juicy, sweet-scented flesh beneath. She didn't just peel them clean, she sliced them into bite-sized pieces, arranging them neatly on a white porcelain plate and adding a few sprigs of green mint for a fresh touch. Every movement carried thoughtfulness and affection, as if she were preparing for a cherished family member. In her heart, there was a mix of excitement and anticipation, picturing the moment her son and Diep stepped through the door, their cheerful greetings filling the warm home. When they arrived, the soft afternoon light streamed into the living room, tinting the thin curtains with gold. She had been waiting for some time, but at the sound of footsteps on the porch, she immediately stood. A gentle smile spread across her face as she walked quickly to welcome Diep, opening her arms as though greeting a true member of the family. Before either of them could sit down, she was already kindly asking whether Diep had fully recovered, how she had been eating and sleeping in recent days, and whether she still felt weak. Her warm, caring tone made Diep feel as though she were being sheltered. James stood quietly to the side, watching. His eyes held a joy that was hard to put into words as he saw his mother and Diep conversing warmly, naturally, as though they had known each other for years. The atmosphere in the room grew unusually cozy, as if the worries and tension of the past days had melted away. In the midst of their conversation, James's mother gently brought up the day Diep fainted. She didn't press her with questions. Instead, she leaned forward slightly, her voice carrying the worry of a mother. "What happened that day? Were you overworking yourself?" Then she earnestly advised Diep that if she ever felt unwell, she should rest and not push herself, because doing so would not only harm her health but also cause those who cared about her to worry even more. Diep listened quietly, feeling the sincerity in every word. She gave a small smile and promised that it wouldn't happen again, that she would take better care of herself so neither James nor his mother would have to worry. That promise softened the woman's gaze, deepening her kind smile. From then on, their conversation turned to lighter topics. They talked about the delicate sweetness of the fruit, the flower beds blooming in the garden, and a few childhood stories of James that his mother shared with delight, making both women laugh. Their voices and laughter mingled with the faint fragrance of tea drifting through the air, creating the feeling of a warm family gathering. For Diep, that moment felt like a quiet affirmation that she was gradually becoming a part of this home, Not just a place to return to, but a place where hearts had truly made room for her.
Xin chào tất cả mọi người đã quay trở lại với kênh của mình. Hôm nay thì đây là đoạn cuối của video, 1 phút cuối để chúng ta có thể dành thời gian nói chuyện và chia sẻ với nhau. Thì mình là chủ sở hữu của kênh. Mình hy vọng rằng những nội dung mà mình đăng tải trên kênh mình có thể mang lại niềm vui, niềm hạnh phúc và có ý nghĩa trong cuộc sống của mọi người. Hy vọng rằng mọi người sẽ để lại những bình luận để chúc phúc cho các nhân vật, cũng như là góp ý cho kênh của mình nhiều hơn để kênh của mình ngày càng có thể hoàn thiện, cũng như là sẽ đưa đến cho mọi người những nội dung tốt nhất, hay nhất. Và nếu như mọi người yêu quý kênh mình cũng như là yêu quý các nhân vật thì hãy đăng ký kênh, sau đó bật chuông thông báo lên để mỗi khi mà kênh mình ra video mới thì mọi người sẽ là những người đầu tiên nhận được thông báo và xem video. Cũng như là nếu như mọi người yêu quý các nhân vật cũng có thể chia sẻ video này đến những người khác, để những người khác có thể xem được nha mọi người. Rất mong là có thể gặp lại mọi người trong những video tiếp theo. Bye bye.